Let's have a talk today about all these different modalities. It seems like there's so many out there with the internet now, and everyone's a coach and healing. And what do you do with your trauma? There's so many of the clients I talk to. Maybe it's their wife or a family member. Have you heard of this? What about this? And we can go on and on. There's some of them that really work effectively. Maybe they work effectively for a time period of your life. There's others that don't really work, but people keep trying, they keep maybe I gotta master it more, or I gotta learn something more about it to really get it to work. And I wanna talk today about why is that? And from A Course in Miracles, why does it seem like so much of the stuff that we do doesn't work out in the end? Or it doesn't, maybe I reach a certain level of success, but then I don't get the juice that I used to get. Or, you know, uh, maybe I feel like, I shifted my thoughts about this certain area of my life, but then over here, this area, it presents challenges now. And it's like playing the whack-a-mole. I solve a problem over here, but another problem over here pops up. And then there seems to be no end to them. We talked about that in previous videos. And I was talking to a client this week, very successful, and, we came back to some of these Course in Miracles lessons, and one of them was a lesson for the week that I wanna share with you. And, as we go through this, it really gives a clear description on why so much of the things that we try don't work. And what I'm gonna read you, it's not really a popular theme. I know my classes, I've talked to students about this where maybe people came to a Course in Miracles class and they didn't really know, what it was about, or, I wanna create the life of my dreams, and then they come and they hear some of these distinctions. I've had people leave and just not come back, or, it's like, I don't know if I want that. Can I get it the way can I make my, as the Course would say, can I make my dream better? And I wanna read you some of these things. This is from lesson 132, and why none of this stuff works in the end, and that really the only way out of we talk a lot, my wife says, you can't get your ducks in a row ever because ducks aren't meant to be in a row. And so many people are really trying to get everything to line up so they don't feel fear and anxiety and stress. And what you start to realize is that itself is part of the trap. I remember I was at a very prominent uh, teacher, very well known around the world. I was at one of their seminars years ago, and everybody was like, "Oh, you're going to do the second part," and it was so much hype and excitement. And I saw this. I mean, I'm a Course in Miracles student for most of my life, or at least a third of my life, and I've done so many of these seminars. I'm a trainer. I've led them, facilitated. I've so many different modalities between my wife and I, and people I know, family members. And when I was at this person, they're very famous. They're so much like excitement and rah rah and all this. You're gonna get everything you finally want in your life. And I could feel this subtle trap in it. Now, that doesn't sell though. That's why this channel, a lot of what we do here is just we do this for the sake of talking about the course and, giving back to what's been given to us and just this beautiful teaching. It's not about, I'm going to finally think of it like this. I'm looking for the answer, the final solution to get my life to be the way I want it to be. And if I could just line everything up, it'll all finally come together. Well, let me read you this from lesson 132. It says, I loose the world. I loosen it. I let go of, I loose the world from all I thought it was. And in paragraph 4, it says, the world is nothing in itself. Your mind must give it meaning, and what you behold upon it are your wishes, acted out so you can look on them and think them real. So what the Course says is what we see out there comes from actually what we want to see and the picture that we project from within ourselves. And it says, perhaps you think you did not make the world, but came unwillingly to what was made already, hardly waiting for your thoughts to give it meaning. Yet in truth, you found exactly what you looked for when you came. So it's not like the world existed, we just showed up to it, which is how most people view their life, which then it sets us up as though the world is something independent or outside of us that I need to figure out a way to manipulate to finally get what I want, what I desire, and to feel safe and protected and loved and assured and all of these things. He goes on, he says, There is no world apart from what you wish, and herein lies your ultimate release. So we see what we want to see. And this key distinction of the course is that what we project out into the world witnesses back to us to show us what teacher we chose to listen to and see from the ego and separation and fear, or the Holy Spirit, which is connection, God, love, peace, unity. So it goes on and says, change but your mind. So just only change your mind on what you want to see, and all the world must change accordingly. And then it goes on and it says, the central theme. I want to skip here to this section right here where it says, there is no world. It says, ideas leave not their source. This central theme is often stated in the text and must be borne in mind if you would understand the lesson for today. It is not pride which tells you that you made the world you see and that it changes as you change your mind. It's not pride that says that. Most people would think it's pride because it's like, how can I be that powerful that all I need to do is change my mind about the world? And it says, but it is pride that argues that you've come into a world quite separate from yourself, impervious to what you think, and quite apart from what you chance to think it is. So what it's saying right there, what Jesus is saying is that that's actual arrogance and pride to think that you just showed up to a world that was already existent and that has nothing to do with your mind, and that's quite apart from what you think by chance, and that the world is independent of that. And then he says, there is no world. This is the central thought that the Course attempts to teach. Not everyone is ready to accept it, and each one must go as far as he can let himself be led along the road to truth. He will return and go still farther, or perhaps step back a while and then return again. But healing is the gift of those who are prepared to learn there is no world and can accept the lesson now. And it goes on and says, really ultimately, that there is no world. And it explains this. Now, I just want to talk about this for a second because most people have resistance when they hear that. Throughout the lesson, it reiterates this over and over again. And what he's saying in the Course is that the world you see is holographic in nature and that doesn't exist outside of you. And that your mind is actually, it's being filtered through your mind from a picture that's projected out on the world, coming from your thoughts. And there's only two teachers or two thought systems to listen to. It's either the ego, what we just spoke about, or the Holy Spirit. Now, there's something very liberating about this if we could truly embrace it. It doesn't mean that there's no meaning in that. What's the point in life? But it does mean that we stop taking the life and the world out there and the fear that comes with it. We just stop operating from that. And that's where the true freedom comes. In any teaching that teaches you how to manipulate the world to get what you want, to make yourself feel better without teaching you that the world itself is illusory, is bound to fail. And it can only fail because it's built on a faulty premise. I have to get to a place where I see the illusion and the illusory nature of the world that I see first. And then what the Course says is that the Holy Spirit can write all the meaning on it, which is we're at a rest stop for a very brief moment while we're on our way to eternity, or really remembering eternity again. And that everything in the world that you see is only a means for coming back to God. When you see the world through that lens, nothing anymore, you don't try to manipulate it anymore because everything turns out is in our own best interest and everything works together for good in the end. So there's no need to manipulate it because you're free of it, because you recognize that you dreamt up a world that seems to be separate, but that you were just a dreamer dreaming a dream of a world that you forgot that you're dreaming. And that's where the key freedom comes from. And that's how we find ourselves at peace in this ever changing, appearing to be chaotic world.